Kuf Aleph, Omid Aleph. There's two issues why you got to get rid of Chameitz. Okay? There's the Korban Pesach issue, and then there's the Stam Pesach issue. What's the Stam Pesach issue? It says, Ach bayom harishon tashbisu sor mibatechem, right? Get rid of the Chametz on the first day. And the tradition says, what about the first day? When is that so-called first day? It's Erev Pesach, not, so why is it called the first day? So Rishon also means the former day, or it could mean the day before. And there are examples of that in Tanakh a few places. Okay, fine. Now, we have this other issue that Lo tishchad chametz dam zivchi. What is that referring to? It says that when it comes time for Korban Pesach, you can't slaughter the Korban Pesach when you have chametz in your possession. Okay? So there's two separate issues. One disqualifies for the Korban, and the other one is get rid of chametz by the day beforehand. What would be the nafkamina? Well, if it's get rid of chametz on Erev Pesach before the holiday starts, when does the holiday officially come in? In the evening, okay, with sundown. So I could do beer chametz. I just have to make sure I get rid of it sometime in the afternoon even. However, when is Korban Pesach time officially? Korban Pesach time starts in the afternoon, okay, with chatzos. So if you wish to participate in Korban Pesach, you got to get rid of the chametz beforehand. So Rambam says, Asr lechol chametz biyom arba asar mechatzot hayom ulamala shu mitchila shah shvit hayom. It is forbidden to eat chametz from the halfway point, noon of that day and on, which is the beginning of the 7th hour. Quick recap so as not to confuse everybody with what we're going to be doing now. When we say the hours, remember how to calculate these hours. How does it go? Well, you take the day from sunrise to sunset, divide by 12, and that gives you a seasonal hour. The good thing is, around Passover time, normally it works out that a seasonal hour is about the length of a regular standard 60-minute hour. And then you divide that by 12, and the first hour is basically, if we could have an ideal situation that the sun would rise at 6 and set at 6, so the first hour is 6 to 7, the second hour is 7 to 8, third hour is 8 to 9, and the end of the fourth hour would be 10 o'clock. And that's when supposedly, according to Luach, we'd finish we'd finish eating the chametz. I wrote here, I looked this up, turns out on the vernal equinox this year, sunrise and sunset are about 5:50. Okay, why is it 10 minutes off? Because we didn't get to set the clock to Israel time on the vernal equinox. Instead, they use the Greenwich observatory, what the British decided. And they decided that their observatory is right in the middle of the world, the prime meridian is there, and the time zones are basically 15 degrees. 24 times 15 would be 360 degrees around the world. Each time zone is about 15 degrees, and the British time zone, the main one, the Greenwich time zone, spans about 7.5 degrees to the east of Greenwich and 7.5 degrees to the west of Greenwich. So we're in a time zone that they gave us. Really, maybe if it was our choice, we could have a time zone that lines up a little bit better, but it's good enough. It's about 5:50. And I looked up something else over here that if you looked at the autumnal equinox this year, the other equinox was the night of Rosh Hashanah, 5786. And sunrise and sunset were actually at 6:34 a.m. or p.m. daylight savings time, which on standard time, like the previous one, the vernal equinox, would have been 5:34. So wait a minute, that brings up a little bit of a problem. The one equinox was the sunrise sunset was 5:50. 6 months earlier, the equinox, the sunrise sunset was at 5:34, a 16-minute difference. Okay, someone thought that, wait a minute, if you just counted when the equinox was, when the sunrise was, 24 hours later until you get to the next equinox, it should be at the same point, 5:50 in the afternoon. But it's not. Okay, equinox just means that the day and night are roughly, basically equal in length. But it turns out it doesn't mean that an exact number of 24-hour periods have passed in between the two of them. And there's a big nafkamina, because this is why I'm trying to tell people, if you'd also say, fine, find the noon. The average noon in Jerusalem would be the way to set our ideal clock. The molados that they tell you when Rosh Hashanah is going to be and Rosh Chodesh is going to be is according to some sort of clock that Rambam knew about and Chazal knew about, but they never told us when it is relative to our Greenwich clock. Okay? According to Rambam clock, when he says the molad will be Friday morning at 9 a.m., that's according to a clock that they were using, and we don't know how to set that clock exactly to hours. It's about, roughly, but no one actually knows. Like the Levina calendar was writing for a few years. There's like 5 major opinions in Achronim from the mid-1950s, the mid-20th century, about how to calculate that. But no one actually knows. Okay? No one's able to figure it out. We don't have a tradition, so there you go. It says here, Rambam says you could eat chametz the entire time according to the Torah, but after noon you can't. You get actually whipped for eating it. And there's a siyag added to that. Okay? The siyag is, it might be cloudy, etc. And it's always good to have a siyag, right? You don't want to get people in trouble by telling them they eat the sandwich up until 12 and suddenly, oops, you ate a 12:01, now you're going to have to get lashed. So that's not good. So he also brings this pasuk. How do we get this? Lo tochal of chameitz. It says regarding Pesach, you can't eat it upon the chametz. And Chazal learned even processing the chametz, which means even processing the korban Pesach. When you slaughter it, you can't have chametz, which means you got to make sure that everybody in the group has gotten rid of his chametz. And there's actually a little bit of a diuk there. What about the Kohen who's doing it? The Kohen's not one of the members of the group who's eating the korban Pesach. What if he has chametz? So there's some readings say that he could ruin it for everybody else. No, it's just the members who have chametz in their possession. Okay, what are you going to do? It's kind of difficult. So Bein Bar-Hayim is this exact time, and the Rambam also paskins if you have chametz in your possession, so you're gonna ruin it. Okay. Haylo kazayith b'rshutho loke. What?
Does that apply when you don't have a korban pesach?
No. So it only says he's only lashed for possessing chametz on Erev Pesach if Hashochet es a Pesach bizmano, vayelo kazayis chametz birshuso. Okay, a person with chametz left in his house on Erev Pesach in the afternoon is only to be lashed for that if they're performing korban Pesach. If you're not in the group performing korban Pesach and you happen to have chametz in your house on Erev Pesach, you're a sinner, but you're not going to get lashed for that.
Forget the lashes. Why are you a sinner?
Because you're supposed to get rid of your chametz.
But you don't have to get rid
if
of
you're
your
shogeg
until the nighttime.
No, but for korban Pesach.
But we don't have a korban Pesach.
But still, you do have a korban Pesach. Every year, you're potentially supposed to bring korban Pesach. There's no excuse. Anus, if you're an anus, I've been trying to tell you this every time I come here before Passover. You and I and everybody are obligated this coming year, and we're obligated this past Passover to try to bring korban Pesach. Many of us did not try. Well, you're lucky. You know why? Because you probably would have gotten arrested like those kids who actually tried to do korban Pesach. Pun intended. However, what do you rely on? Anus Rachmana Patre. You know that you would have gotten arrested had you tried to show up at Har Bayis with your goat or your lamb, whatever it may be. But you should not rely on that because God willing, this year, they will allow someone to do korban Pesach, and everybody who didn't make an attempt to do so will be in a whole lot of trouble.
So we in Yerushalayim have a chiyuv to do the korban Pesach.
Yeah.
And Anus Rachmana Patre.
Yeah.
A person in Haifa doesn't have that obligation.
Well, he correct. He's a derek koko.
Puts it outside the year.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's not going to get lashed.
Forget lashes.
Yeah.
When does the chiyuv? When's the isser begin?
The isser begins at chatzos.
Why?
Why? Because it's korban Pesach time, and everybody's supposed to make an attempt. Even the derech rechoka is considered a type of putter, a patur, but not a complete patur. The derech rechoka person, right, was supposed to make an attempt, and if he misses that, what's he supposed to do? Pesach Sheni. Yeah, he's not supposed to be like, oh, good, I live in Haifa, no obligation to bring korbanos. That's not how it works. L'chat chila, he has to try. Okay, so everybody's got rid of their chametz. And the sages added to this.
Let me understand this. There's a chiyuv on all Am Yisrael.
Yeah.
Or a derech rechoka, we can't bring it on Pesach Rishon, but we have an obligation to bring it Pesach Sheni.
Yeah, but you're
So
going
if
to
I
be
live
sure.
in New York, there's an obligation to bring the korban Pesach.
L'chat chila. Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah, but you're going to, if you miss that also, if you miss both, so you miss both. If you're still in honors both ways. Actually, we could learn the sugya. There's an interesting.
Get cards for that.
You're not going to get curries. I have a chart. If I brought my Rambam here, Makbili has a good chart. I wrote a different chart because Makbili didn't account for the Ravid's and the Rashi's opinion, and we discussed this back in Kuchav Yaakov 2 years ago. But it's actually a good machlokes to what extent one is responsible for missing even Pesach Sheni. Missing even Pesach Sheni, right? Personal responsibility for these things. So yeah, it's actually it's a tough it's a tough sugya that should wake people up. That lichatchila you're supposed to try to bring korban pesach, and you have to get rid of your chametz because of that. Yeah, yeah,
Let's talk about reality. I mean,
yeah.
know,
I'm talking about reality. The same God who created this whole reality told us to bring korban
I
pesach.
lived in New York.
Yes.
So what are you telling me that I have to do?
If you live in New York, you have until January 1st to get out. Okay, that's the first thing, because the new
Come on.
okay. If you live in New York, you should not be living in New York. If you live in Chutz La'aretz, you should live in Eretz Yisrael. If you live in Eretz Yisrael, you should be learning the laws of Tumen Torah and Kachim so that you could keep these mitzvahs, which with
You're not answering my question.
what is it
You're playing
specifically?
games.
Okay.
Rove of Jews live in Chutz La'aretz. That's the reality.
Okay.
What is the halachic requirement regarding the Korban Pesach for them?
They have to make an attempt to bring Korban Pesach.
And if they don't?
If they don't, that's a good thing.
There's a Rambam that says that?
Yeah. So yeah, it's Korban Pesach. I guess we could jump to it. I'm going to put it on the screen here.
No, say that.
If you want, we could prepare it. Okay, it's Hilchos Korban Pesach,
Yeah.
and there I remember there was a guy actually 3 years ago giving me a hard time sitting in New York when last time I was there, saying, yeah, but why do I have to go do it? Does it ever say I have to do it? So that yeah, that's the halacha. You have to attempt to do this. Okay, if Korban Pesach is brought, and there are those who succeed, and everybody who didn't make an attempt and could have done it, the ones who are closest get curries. That's what it says. If you didn't do it, you get curries. Okay, so it's pretty difficult, you know. It's difficult to work around these things and try to tell people that, you know, don't have to worry about it. You know, we have responsibility to keep the commandments, and we have
Other than you,
yeah.
other than you, I've never heard anybody say, and we know it's a significant thing to bring a Korban Pesach.
Yeah.
The Chayav Kares.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anybody suggest that we have to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You must be in a bubble then.
I just haven't. Have you?
No.
Okay, well, do you have any Israeli friends?
I have Israeli friends.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Nobody,
yeah,
not in shul.
yeah,
No one has ever suggested
we have
that.
Korban Pesach.
And now that I think about it, I mean, you're Chayav Kares.
Yeah.
And no one has ever suggested, hey, maybe we ought to try this, bring it back, you know.
But hold on one second. You didn't hear this come out of my mouth, let's say in the last 3 years. I've been trying to sell you a Haggadah to use for this eventuality.
Okay. That I
So,
remember.
I can't you can't tell me that I'm the first one, you know,
You're-
ever.
You're the first one
Okay.
who was presented in a way that it applies, I understand it applied, that for those who live in maybe in Yerushalayim, no one has suggested it other than you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, everybody has to make an attempt to do Korban Pesach. It's only b'diavad that they don't do it. Yeah. Yira'eh chol zechurecha. Chol zechurecha means, you know, and by the way, the Korban Pesach is
That's not.
that's a bit
Korban
say.
Pesach.
That's a bit say. Yes, everybody's supposed to come to the Beis Hamikdash 3 times a year, and you should know God intended that Jews live here and not in, let's say, America. Okay, as a matter of fact, America didn't even exist back in the time of Chazal. You know, just a right, a little bit of a joke, but yeah.
Where we get there for Choka.
Over derech chalachem.
Does it say that they're not able to?
Yeah,
That's outside.
Which means they must have tried them down and were not able, right?
yeah. They're unable to. You can't just sit around. And then it says, if you're derech choka, so you got to try for Korban Pesach Sheni. By the way, Pesach Sheni only comes into play, we said, when they do Korban Pesach right. So we're all a bunch of anusim. So you're anusim. Tosfos said, why don't we make aliyah? Tosfos comes to the conclusion at the end of Ksubis. Did you know there's a mitzvah to be in Eretz Yisrael? But what are you going to do? The Crusades are happening. You get yourself killed trying to get here. So you're putter because of that. Mashma, that once Rabbi Fass is going to set up an organization to pay you to come to live here, you're going to have to come and live here. Yeah, well, many of us do live here, thank God. But, you know, we haven't gotten past, the second stage. Yeah.
I'll talk about the politics of it.
I didn't. Okay.
I had always thought.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm wrong.
Hmm.
That if you're b'derech chokah, there is no chiyuv to bring a korban pesach.
No, there's a tour from the
It's a
chiyuv.
tour.
Yeah, there's a tour. So you have got to bring Pesach Sheni. And if you don't bring that, so then it's a question. So you won't get punished. No, you won't. There's only certain cases where chayav kares, and that's a three-way machlokas in the Rishonim, which is why I want to bring the chart, God willing, and show you. Okay, just because, by the way, someone is not chayav kares for a particular situation doesn't mean lechatchili wasn't supposed to do it. Okay. Yeah, it's similar to pater aval aser, but that's talking about thou shalt not. This is a thou shalt. Okay, well. No, wait a minute. This is what the whole Masechta is about, because this whole thing about getting rid of the chametz leads into Korban Pesach. Okay, that's the whole tachlis of this whole Masechta and the limud here. Okay, so let's read it here. Kol shah shemuter le'achol ma'achil livhema l'chaya wila'ofoth. So as the Mishnah says that as long, okay, or whatever hour where it's mutter to eat the chametz. So he can, it's talking about halachic man. Halachic man, we don't know who he is, it's the third person. He can eat, and therefore he can also feed it to his domesticated animals, wild animals, and to birds. All right, feed the birds. He could also legally sell it to a non-Jewish fellow. And he could get any other hana from the chametz. Okay, as long as he could eat it, get hana. Avar zmano, asar ba'anato. But once the time passes for eating it, then it is forbidden to get benefit from it. Now, that's a very strong connection. It's either all or nothing. You could eat it, so you can get hana. If you can't eat it, no hana. And by the way, selling it is a form of hana because you get money out of it. An example of hana, which you think, well, maybe I could go and do this, the Gemara is going to say, I'll use the chametz that I'm burning, it's a large quantity, I'll use it to fire the oven and also cook my yontif food with that way. No, you can't do that because that's a form of hana you get from the chametz. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ein biur chametz ela srifa. Rabbi Yehuda says the only way you could destroy your chametz is through burning. And the sages say, what af mifarer v'zoreh laruach o matil layam. You can crumble it up into crumbs, throw it to the wind, toss it into the sea. Important halacha came here years ago. People said you can't drink the Kinneret water if your tap water comes from the Kinneret because people throw breadcrumbs into the sea, and the chametz is not batel, even the millions. So there you go. But Rabbi Lior said, the Gemara says that if you throw your chametz into the sea, it's already considered bivoar. So the sea, the Kinneret is considered the sea according to Chazal, even though it's not the Mediterranean Sea, it's not the ocean, it's good enough. Chametz in there is already considered mivoar from the olam. So even if you would actually open up your tap here in Jerusalem and get some water from the Kinneret and there's actual breadcrumb in there, that doesn't count as a breadcrumb anymore. But it doesn't happen anyways. Secondly, last year, people looked in the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah said that when Shabbos is Erev Pesach, how do you get rid of your chametz? Obviously, you're not going to do it like Rabbi Yehuda because you can't make a fire on Shabbos. So there you go, do it the regular way. The Mishnah Berurah at the time wrote, by the way, the Mishnah Berurah lived in Poland before World War I. He was writing this. And most of humanity lived without plumbing. The Mishnah Berurah says, throw it in the Beis HaKisei, which is, the outhouse. Okay? That's where you dispose of the chametz. Most people read the Mishnah Berurah in the current year and said, oh, I'm going to throw bread down my toilet. Do not do that. That will destroy your toilet. Okay? Then you'll have a clog, and it'll be inconvenient to the plumber to have to come on Chol Moed to fix it, and you won't have a toilet on Yontif. Instead, what you're supposed to do according to the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah is, on Shabbos Erev Pesach, which will happen again in about 15 years, what you have to do is take the chametz and throw it in the dumpster or leave it somewhere hefker, and that's it. That's all you're required. That's what the Mishnah Berurah meant, not put it in your toilet and clog your toilet. Okay. Well,
according to Rabbi Yehuda, what do I do when Pesach is knocked up?
No, you can't. Then you can't.
So you don't.
So you don't. So you just get it. You get rid of it. The whole thing that we do that says in the Rambam and other places that you do a ceremonial burning on Erev Shabbos 2 days before Passover is just so that you don't forget what's going on. But really, there's no beer chametz then. Why? You have to save some of that bread to eat even that night on Shabbos and tomorrow morning. Okay, you need something for at least 2 sudas of chametz. Yeah, if you're going to be like the Vilna Gaon, 3 sudas of chametz. How do you do that? Just eat a third suda, sort of after the second, and maybe even then it didn't actually accomplish anything. You have a question? No. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's what we do. You get surprising things all the time. Kol shash mutar le'achol ma'achil. The Mishnah said anytime he can eat, so he can feed to the animals, right? Kol shash einu mutar le'achol einu ma'achil. Well, wasn't that the second line in our Mishnah? Perhaps maybe they didn't have that line in the Mishnah, right? But our Mishnah does say that. No, actually, no, I read it wrong. The Mishnah doesn't say that, but that's the inference. The inference is mutter to eat, mutter to feed. not mutter to eat, not mutter to feed. Lema asnisin delo Rabbi Yehuda. So let's go back to the previous parak. There's a Mishnah in the previous parak, and we had Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. What did he say? Rabbi Yehuda had said that there's actually a time there. The Gemara is going to bring this. What does it say about Rabbi Yehuda? He said actually there's an in-between time. There's a Tolin time. What does he say? He says here.
Can't
What?
eat after the 4th, but you can have hana.
Yes. Rabbi Yehuda says Omer kol arba'ah or kol arba. That means from 9 to 10 even you could eat, and then v'tolin kol chamesh from 10 to 11 according to our halachic clock. From 10 to 11 you just tolin. Tolin means okay, don't eat it, but don't burn it yet. And then what do? And then the sorfin b'schila sheish at the beginning of the 6th hour at 11 a.m., which would be more like 11:30, usually on Erev Pesach time because we're off by a little bit. So that's when you start to burn it. And I'd like you to also focus on that. Maschilim. Okay, that's when you start to burn it. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. So Rabbi Yehuda basically has a time where you could eat, could not eat, but still ma'achil. So obviously Rabbi Yehuda is not the author of this Mishnah, or this Mishnah is not quoting Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. So he's going to continue here. It says in the Mishnah, Rabbi Meir Omer ochlin kol chamesh v'sarfin b'tchila sheish. Rabbi Meir says you could eat the entire 5th hour up until 11 o'clock. And then you burn it at the beginning of the 6th hour from 11 to 12. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ochlin kol arba v'tolin kol chamesh v'sarfin b'tchila sheish. So that concludes this difficulty. We cannot resolve this Mishnah with Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara suggests, "Velo my Rabbi Meir he." I'm going to say it's Rabbi Meir. Doesn't fit Rabbi Meir either. Kol sha'ah shemuter lechol ma'achil, kol sha'ah she'ochel ma'achil mibailei. A grammatical problem. It says, according to Rashi over here, it should have said, the Mishnah should have said it differently, right? It says muter le'echol, anybody's muter le'echol, so he can ma'achil. Okay? It just said ochel, kol sha'ah she'ochel, right? He is the one who's doing the eating. When it says the entire time when it's technically permissible to eat, it should have continued. So it's technically permissible laha'achil to feed it to something else. Okay. Now, is this such a big kasha? I just like to point out, thank you, Steinsaltz, who also, if you open up the Yerushalmi, you'd see they don't even have a kasha because their text in the Mishnah is slightly differently. It says kol sha'ah shehu ochel. Okay. Kol sha'ah shehu ochel mutar lochal. Okay. Or kol sha'ah shehu mutar lochal ma'achil livhema. So it does resolve with Rabbi Meir. We're going to see there's actually a nafkamina la'alacha in this regard. Okay, but here the Bavli says that the language implies that there's, like Rambam says, trei gavra. Okay, we're talking about two different people. The entire time that he is able to eat, so he is able to feed. Someone's able to eat, so someone's able to feed. So who is that referring to? So they're going to say Rabban Gamliel was Amar Rabba Bar Ula Masdisan Rabban Gamliel he. Okay. It's Rabban Gamliel's opinion. What does Rabban Gamliel say? It's not Rabban Gamliel Omer. Chulin nechalin kol arba, truma kol chamesh v'sorfin b'tchila sheish. Okay, you could eat the chulin until the end of the 4th hour, but truma we don't want to dispose of the truma. So Chazal were more lenient with that because it's holy. You have the entire 5th hour to eat it. The 5th hour is from 10 to 11, and then you burn. Well, and he is a kohen, and a regular Jew can feed it to his animals then. The entire time he's able to eat. Who's that? That's the kohen to eat his truma. Yisrael ma'achil chulin levehema chaylo ofos. Okay. Now what?
Do they not make up Rabbi Gamliel at all?
No, they don't invoke Rabbi Gamliel. Okay.
But it seems to be that it is an opinion.
That is an opinion, but they don't invoke it. So here I wrote the nafkamina. The Rambam says that in the previous paragraph, Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda. Halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. What does Rabbi Yehuda say? Let's just say it over here. Ochlin kol arba v'tolin kol chamesh v'sarfin b'schila sheish. That's what the Rambam says. That's the halacha. So you find that according to Yerushalmi, our Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. That's what Yerushalmi says. The Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, and it's not halachic. The Mishnah that we have at the middle of this page, that's nish kain halacha. But according to the Bavli, this Mishnah is halacha according to Rabbi Gamliel. Okay. So machlokas, the Bavli Yerushalmi, how you figure out your halacha there. And this is a case where Rambam apparently follows the Bavli, not the Yerushalmi. Secondly, and now I wanted to ruin Mr. Staknowitz's day again, and tell him something that maybe you haven't heard. But I opened up the calendar on Erev Pesach, and I find, oh, it tells me when's the last time I could eat my chametz. And it gives me the Magen Avram Zman and the Vilna Gaon Zman. And we use the Vilna Gaon Zman because the Magen Avram Zman is ahistorical and brings up so many kashas, and no one said it before him. But they put in the luchos anyways, even though, fine. So when was the last time I could eat my chametz on Erev Pesach? 4 hours into the day. About 4 regular hours, because the seasonal hours are mostly the same as the regular hours, after sunrise, right? And then it has this thing, Sof Zman Bir Chametz, which is an hour later. That Sof Zman Bir Chametz is the end of the 5th hour. But everything I've read until this point says, Maschilin, to burn. That means we begin burning the chametz at the end of the 5th hour until the 6th hour, 10 to the 6th hour, right? And you read that in the Rambam. The Rambam says it also very clearly. When do you start to burn the chametz? At the end of the 5th hour. And the Shulchan Aruch says this. And the Mishnah Berurah in 4 places mentions this fact. Okay? Yeah. Now, but I opened up the Eaton Levina calendar and the other calendars, and it told me the Sof Zaman Achilas Chametz is 10:34 or whatever it might be, and the Sof Zaman Bir is an hour later, 10:35. But according to the Mishnah, according to the Talmud, according to the Torah and the Rambam, according to the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah, that's only the beginning time. Really, I'm supposed to begin burning my chametz at that point. So what's going on here? Is this also something you haven't heard yet or heard since from before? Told me I had a Sof Zman Bir chametz, but that's only the Tchilas Zman. The hour for burning chametz is the 6th hour. And everywhere I look in the books. So, whatever. I'm not the one who prints the calendar. They didn't ask me because I think they mislead people regarding Birkas HaLevana every single month. Whether you want to be a good Ashkenazic person or a Sephardic person, it doesn't matter. The calendar has it wrong. I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't fit. It's basically some machlokes Chazal and the calendar makers. But you could actually look at that.
It's by instead at.
Burn
You
it.
have to burn it by a certain time,
If-
at a certain time.
Well, who says that? You're saying Chazal meant that? Because the calendar makers call it Sof Zman Bir. And that's what we just saw in the time they call it Maschilin. Sof is the opposite of Maschil. They're opposites.
What would the svara be to define it as saying dafka at that time it must be done, and not by that time it must be done?
Ah, good. So the Mishnah, as we've seen in other places, was talking about a reality where people had kachim and truma. Remember, the lachmei toda was a sign. Now that's kind of interesting because lechem toda is holy, it's chametz, and they don't want it to bring it to destruction. What are you going to do if it exists on Erev Pesach? It has to be destroyed. Kohanim have truma. Kohen eats truma for breakfast. He baked himself some nice pitas. To destroy truma tahora is not really allowed.
That's why
Right?
Rabbi
So-
Gamliel says that you can eat it till the 6th hour.
Yeah, and that's how the Rambam paskins. So the truma, we give it more time. So really, when they were talking about burning the chametz during the 6th hour, by the way, everybody, if you're with us and we get disconnected, so just log back in and we'll start the second session. Okay? We have the time limit here. Okay, so basically what they were telling you is begin burning means this is the hour when we burn the chametz because you don't want to burn it right away. If you told people you have to burn it by a certain time, means up to the beginning of the 6th hour, they would be destroying truma that they didn't have to, okay, or kachim. But nowadays, I don't know. I just think that it's perhaps not the most intellectually honest to present something as Sof Zman Bir Chametz when Chazal and the poskim never said such a thing. Okay, I don't know who decided that it's called Sof Zman. You read in the Mishnah Berurah, for example. I could show you the sources in Tuf Mem Daled and Tuf Mem Hey.
What would the
Yeah.
svara? The answer you just gave is that they lived in a time of truma,
Yeah.
and therefore you had to postpone it until the appropriate amount of doing it.
Yes.
That doesn't apply today.
Oh, no. So that's why I'm going to disagree with you. It did, and we're bringing it back. God willing, soon, I believe in Meheri Bana Mikdash. We're supposed to have brought Korban Tamid this morning, so we can maybe bring this afternoon, God willing, if things improve. And there are a lot of people who have to bring Korban Toda starting tomorrow afternoon. Okay, that's part of our faith. I believe in the coming of the Messiah, and it was supposed to be today. And I believe every single day he's supposed to show up. And it's within our hands to easily start the Avodas Beis HaMikdash. So we have to be ready for these things. With regards to Truma, we should have Kohanim learning these laws and practicing laws of Truma and Tara, because eating truma and challah is an everyday eventuality. It happened. It's a possibility. We should be doing it.
It'll happen, but it has nothing to do with now.
Yeah, well, no, it is.
doesn't
It does,
apply
it does,
now.
it does apply now. It does apply now. We should, Chaverim also, Chaverus persisted in Am Yisrael well after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash for a few centuries. Okay? And there are, you can look in the halakhic books, there even are ways for young Kohanim to eat things like challah in Chutz La'aretz. They've only going points this out. There were people who were doing that, and they could do that if they would actually get used to doing it. Okay? And I believe there are people like this. There are Kohanim
So
who are,
going back to the question,
yeah.
what is the svara to saying it must be beginning and ending at this time? That it has to be done at the Shah Shishis.
Shashishis?
What would be I can understand the svara
Yeah.
if you have truma. Today we don't have the Kohanim can't eat truma because there's a suffix of kahuna, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
What then is the practical, the nafkamina here?
You want to get rid of it by noon. Okay? It has to be done by noon. That's the real Sov's Manbir.
By then, you
Yeah.
just said.
Yeah.
So the
That's real.
rabbis instituted 1 hour before.
No,
that.
but the rabbis never did that. That's when you start burning it. They said, so you start burning it an hour before
I
noon.
know it says.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be interpreted? So give me a svara as to why it must be done at that time.
Because everything they do, you see, since the previous parak, is done in terms of hours. Okay? There's an hour for doing this, an hour for doing that. We're about to take people from something that they were lo badli inchi, right? With chametz, right? Lo badli inchi. People are not used to suddenly taking that which was permissible and even required.
I know.
So there's an official thing. No, so listen, with the korban, with the lachmei toda, everybody, here's the first hour. Finish eating your chametz because it's about to become usher. Tolim. Now we have this hour where you're learning that you can't eat it, but you can still get rid of it in certain creative ways that give you hana. And now you got to utterly destroy it because in another hour, there's stages. Okay? The sages created these stages. They realized this is the right way to get people into stop eating, then stop using it, and now destroy it. Okay? 3 stages, and they all have to be done before noon. So they divide up in hours. In El Chinam, they could have done it 2 hours. They could have made a takana that each of these stages is 2 hours long. Yeah.
The Seder.
Yeah.
The Zaman, Rabbi says that odd, so what's he say? Odds. So for so Hamishi release. What's Yehuda Amar? What's the bracelet?
Ochlin kol arba, v'tolin kol hamesh, v'sofin v'schiyas seish.
Ochlin Kar.
Yeah.
Is that literal?
Yes.
That means I can't stop. I can't finish eating by 7 o'clock in the morning.
Ochlin kol
I
arba.
must
No.
finish. by
No.
10 o'clock.
He says, yeah, you can eat up until 10 o'clock. Ochlin kol arba, all 4 hours, but then beyond that, no ochlin, no eating. And
Again,
tolin, yeah.
how come you translate Ochlin Kol Arba?
Ochlin kol arba means you
Is
can't eat.
that a requirement?
No, it's not a requirement.
If that's not a requirement, why Tchilas Sheish is a requirement?
Because tolin also, you don't have to do tolin necessarily.
Then why do you have to dafka burn it by the beginning
So
of the day?
sorfin b'schilas sheish means though the burning starts. Burning starts at the beginning of the 6th hour, but you don't burn it the entire 6th hour. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can wait until the last minute.
It can be.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, you could start even earlier.
How come that is literal and the first 3 are not literal? And the other
I don't think it's literal. I don't think it's just required. Okay, ochlin you can if you have chametz. Okay, tolin you can if you have chametz. Sorfin, that's a formal thing to show everybody we're separating. That's
Why
done during that hour.
9 o'clock.
Technically speaking, if you need to, we saw sugyas that say you could, but that's when everybody did it. When everybody does it together, okay, when we have this, like the lachmei toda, remember? What's the point of lachmei toda? Everybody, we want synchronicity and showing people, here's the time for doing this. Here's how you properly separate yourself from the chametz. Okay, you eat until the 4th hour, or you can't eat, and this and that. Yeah, I know there's a rabbi I remember, he used to burn his chametz at 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay, but
You're telling me that he can't. He's not supposed to.
No, I didn't say he
because
can't.
it says Tchila Sheish.
I'm saying that for the masses, and the way they controlled it is, Chazal made it very specific that only beginning at the 6th hour, that's where we'll have everybody burn these things, because a lot of it's kudshim. Okay? If you were, nowadays, it's totally fine. You know, I'm not worried about anybody burning challah or truma or kudshim. But in the olden days, when this was a normal thing, they would actually tell people the real burning time is starting at 11 or 11:30, what it might be. Okay?
Again,
Yeah.
you're going around in circles.
No.
We agree that
Yeah.
when there's a reason to not to burn it early, because there's a possibility of truma and other kutchim,
Yeah.
I can accept that. Then push it off as late as possible, because you're not allowed to burn it before that. But bisman that you don't have truma, and you don't have kutchim,
Yeah.
and you're saying we should matchila b'shesh.
Yeah.
No, that's
Hold on.
odd
The-
shesh.
I'm going to say this thing.
If
The,
the others
the
are
Mishnah,
about chamesh, odd shesh.
Chazal never imagined our situation where you have nothing that's holy. Chazal never lived in a reality, even in times of the Babylonian Talmud, where there was absolutely no challah or anything like that.
But we are in such
Okay,
a time.
good.
When
And
they
we are in such a time, but the halacha was made for such a time. And not only that, I'm trying to tell you that it is supposed to be this case. We were supposed to have lachmei toda last year. Okay? We were supposed to have lachmei toda, and we were supposed to have truma, we were supposed to have challah. It's just our own negligence that we do not have it. But the halacha is not going to change. The halacha, the Chazal made a takana, and this takana is supposed to be for all the lichatchila realities. No one ever got up and said, heyot, that we haven't had truma or kudshim, etc., or challah for a few hundred years. You know what? Now let's just tell everybody burn your chametz even an hour earlier. You know, no one ever is going to do that, and I don't think the halacha has any reason to change. Yeah.
The halacha changes to the times that we live in.
Okay. So
And lachmei toda
Yeah.
didn't exist on Erev Pesach.
well, they didn't
It
tell
was
people
done
not to do
way
it.
before.
Yeah. Okay. So, but still, my point is, there's supposed to be korban todas today. There are a lot of people who do korban todas. I heard people sing a song. They're like,
Supposed to be
Yeah.
carbonus.
I heard people sing a song that they were actually taking a vow to bring a korban toda, and they didn't realize what they were saying. You know, L'cha is bach zevach toda of Shem Hashem ekra. You know, they say that on every Rosh Chodesh, but did they really mean it? I don't know. In fact, I've been questioning people. We might remember, if we're disconnected, just log back in and we'll come right back. I've been telling people, you said L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim. Did you mean it? You know, that was a promise. Next year, I'm going to do my Seder in Jerusalem. How many people actually believe that? Right? Well, I believe that, and that's why, you know. Either way, let's continue here. The Gemara is going to ask, Chayev Ophos says he could feed it to, not say he could feed it to his children, said he could give it to the animals and the beasts, the Vildachayas, and to the birds. What's an afkamina? Why all three have to be mentioned? Well, actually, it's kind of interesting here. There's going to be a sort of contradiction in terms. Let's read it. Hold on. Yeah. Lamili misli behema, lamili misli chaya. So what's the nafkamino? Well, I got to mention all three. And the Gemara says, Sricha, di tana behema, di misharya chazile. If it just said feed it to your domesticated animals that you have in the yard, so if they leave it over, you throw a loaf of bread to the chickens. Sorry, you throw a loaf of bread to the goat. You'll see it, and you'll be able to destroy it. So you'll be off the hook. Aval chaya di misharya kamatzna la emalo. With regards to if he, for whatever reason, has some wild animal, okay, what does he have? I don't know. He likes to feed. He likes to feed a stray dog. Okay, that'd be a chaya that's stray. He throws it whatever chametz there is, so it's going to eat it. But whatever it leaves over, it's going to hide. So now you're going to have a problem, because now at least what you fed to the goats, if you see that there's too much left over, so you can pick that up and burn it like Rabbi Yehuda, or scatter it to the wind. But what you feed to this wild dog, you're going to have a little bit of a problem, and then you're going to be on the hook. Okay, but v'itana chaya, if it just mentioned the wild animals, mishum d'shei misharya mias matzna. Don't worry about it. If the dog left over anything that you threw out of the yard, don't worry, it hit it, and it's no longer your responsibility. Wait a minute ago you just told me that I actually have a problem because I tried to feed the wild animals something, the vildachaya, and it hid the leftover chametz. Now I'm in trouble. Now I have a problem. Now it tells me, don't worry, if it gets rid of the chametz, the fact that it took it away to its lair has made it that you're off the hook. I don't know. So which one is it? Okay, one answer contradicts the other. Yeah. Okay, it just tells you, don't worry, the animal. Yeah.
What we would have learned had the Mishnah said this.
Okay, yeah, we would have learned it, but the Mishnah we would have learned contradictory lessons. Okay, one case you're off the hook, one case you're on the hook, even though it's the same eventuality. But with the behema, it'll leave it over and you'll ignore it, and then it's right there sitting in your yard. So then you'll have a problem, okay? And you won't look at it. The koyale beval yira val yimatzeh, and then he'll be on the hook for bal yiroi and bal yimatzeh, which is an avera. He'll have the chametz in his possession even on Passover because it's still his yard. Ema lo. So I would have said that it shouldn't be the case that the Mishnah says this. Tzricha. And why does it mention birds? Ophos lamali. I did son of behema v'chayim.
What's the end result? We don't have to worry about either. You just can feed it to the.
Yeah. So really, it says you don't have to worry about your birds. Why do you have to start feeding your goats? Because you're off the hook. Whatever you see, right? Whatever's there left over, you can get rid of yourself. You'll see it. And you're off the hook for the animals. Why? The wild animals, because whatever they took is gone and not in your possession anyways. Okay? It's not in your possession, so this is the bottom line. The Vildachais takes something out of your possession, you're off the hook because it's not in your chutzner. Okay? You threw it to the wild animals.
You might have thought.
Yeah, you might have thought. That was a hot one, yeah.
It's not a.
Yes. And you might have thought that leaving it for the animal, leaving it to feed, let's say, your goats, is a problem because you're not going to notice what they leave over. Kamash Milan, you will notice what they leave over and you'll still be able to get rid of it. Okay? You feed the goats, you'll still notice leftovers and you get rid of it. By the way,
Does that mean that I have to check after the?
yes,
after
yes.
the goats and
It's
the
we're
cows?
responsible for animal feed. The people who work in animal husbandry, not agriculture, but here in Israel, the Rabbanut even has restrictions about this. They start feeding the chickens and the other animals kosher for Pesach vittles, okay, feed, starting like a few weeks before Passover. Okay, they don't want any oats that got wet in the in the barn or whatever it is where the refet, they call it, I don't know what they call it, the cow shelter. Okay, you don't want that around because that's your problem. Matter of fact, there are people even have a chumrah that if the cows and chickens were
Not able to get in, it says they're not able to,
yeah, why not?
invalid something or other.
So, and there's the other issue that if you feed the chicken wheat or grains and then you slaughter the chicken, you're going to find grains in its kishkas, and that's also going to ruin things. Okay, so there are people who, for example, make sure to get their eggs well before Passover. What's the whole thing about stocking up on eggs before Passover? Because whatever chametz was goring the eggs is already bottle before Passover, so it's not choser v'neor. But if you were to feed your chickens chametz and then they're laying eggs on Passover, those are chametz eggs technically, so you can't get eggs on Passover. So you ever seen people like that? They buy up like 5 dozen eggs before Passover. Yeah, that's the technical reason for doing this. So yes, there is a major issue with feeding your animals chametz before Passover. The ikar adin is you cannot feed the animals in your possession chametz on Passover. Why? You're not allowed to possess that chametz to give them, and you're not allowed to get hana from the chametz, and all sorts of other problems. You're not allowed to feed your animals chametz on Passover. Okay? It's yours. Just like you can't feed anybody chametz on Passover. So that's the problem. And we'll continue next time.